Okay, is all this AI and SEO stuff just making your head hurt? Innovations every day. The past week has been nuts. Bard released ChatGPT-4 and plugins, Bing Image Creator, and The Verge totally trolls the heck out of Google with a ridiculous article for Brothers Printers. So much to cover. It's so much fun and so overwhelming. If you have anxiety like me about this, don't watch this. Don't watch this episode. No, I'm kidding. It's fun and it's SEO, and we're going to dive into the SEO Weekly. Let's do it. Welcome back to the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything that's going on in the world of SEO. We're talking Google, ChatGPT, blog updates, features of new tools, webinars, podcasts, communities, Twitter, you name it, I'm on it. If you're into this stuff, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a like, share on the socials, leave me a comment. I genuinely appreciate it. So much AI stuff to cover, so let's dive in. So Google continues to try to improve on their documentation, appreciate the transparency. They actually have this Google search status dashboard that they've now integrated with the rankings update. So the search status dashboard gives you, notifications around like crawling, service outages, indexing outages, information about rankings, and then ultimately about serving. For the ranking section, now you can see every time that they do update any sort of the ranking systems, whether it's a core update or helpful content or product reviews, all that, you will see this in the search status dashboard, when it was started, when it was completed, all the information. So it's a little more congruent there. Helpful to know where that is and pay attention to. So if you're an SEO engineer and you have this like love-hate relationship with JavaScript when it comes to SEO and search, well, Search Off the Record podcast with Martin Splitt was great this week. It was with Edru Pereira and Pascal Birchler, both who are Googlers working, with like Gary Ilias working on the search team, open source. Basically, they went into misconceptions about JavaScript, advancements with TypeScript, how to use WebAssembly, different applications, and how Google has learned to better effectively render JavaScript. Really interesting conversation. Some of it was way over my head as a non-expert developer by any means, but for those of you who are into it, never even touched TypeScript, maybe it's something that you would want to check out. Great podcast. Hey, yeah, that wasn't great. Last Tuesday, Bard, released by Google, the big ChatGPT competitor that we've all been waiting for, is now available to a select amount of people to be tested. Okay, so first off, you need to be above 18. You need to have a Gmail address. You need to be in the US or the UK, and the Gmail email address can't be associated with a Google workplace. But I got off of it. The SEO community was jumping in and testing out Bard and seeing how it performed. There's a lot to unpack here. First off, remember last February, Sundar Pichai, when he announced all about what Bard was going to be, is that it's based on Lambda, the large language model by Google, but it's a super lightweight. So it's not going to be as powerful as what they potentially could roll out. And in fact, it's not nearly close to what ChatGPT can do at this point. Another main call out is whether or not it provides citations of articles that it references or pulls information from. And it really doesn't for the most part. Barry Schwartz pulled from the FAQs the idea that its attempt at generating AI content needs to be original. It doesn't just want to duplicate and copy. And so when it does pull from one source, for the most part, it will actually link to that source some of the time. For instance, when I asked, what is iPullRank? It explained what iPullRank is, and then it actually sourced the homepage of iPullRank. Doesn't happen very often. Sometimes you'll see, the other thing that with Bard is that it provides 3 drafts for your answer. It has the main one, and then you can click and toggle over to these other versions. Sometimes in the other versions, it actually has more citations. In terms of creating original content, there have already been issues. For instance, Avram Pilch of Tom's Hardware pointed out that When asking Bard for some real-time, up-to-date information, it actually plagiarized content on their site. It pulled information and then referred to research as our research as opposed to Tom's hardware, and then didn't cite them. Google, when was reached for comment, actually denied that there was plagiarism. So that's problematic to begin with. Additionally, Bard doesn't have a great memory. It doesn't remember your entire conversation in the same ways that ChatGPT can. For instance, I tested out for local search, and definitely don't use it for local search. I was asking, should I go out and wearing a jacket today, assuming that Bard would know where I am, be able to pick out the temperature, and then give me recommendations. So it wasn't great. First off, it just told me why I would or would not want to wear a jacket with nothing to do with the weather. Then when I said, can you use the weather? It actually pulled weather from California, which I wasn't in. When I asked it for a local pizza joint, it just gave me nationwide pizza joints. That's not really helpful, and it's not there yet. It does get up-to-date information, though. When I asked it for the Sixers game score from the night before, it was able to accurately get that in there. So worth paying attention with Bard. It's early steps. I will caveat all this with saying that Google definitely has the technology to produce something as incredible as OpenAI and ChatGPT. It is just being much more judicious with how it rolls it out. They have their AI principles that they don't want to let it out without guardrails, that it's potentially problematic if they do. In fact, there's many disclaimers that claim that it might give you offensive information. It might provide inaccurate information because remember, even with access to the internet, it is a large language model. It is just trying to predict the next word, the most likely next word that you would probably see based on all the information that it's trained on. It does not understand anything. It does not think. It is not AGI, artificial general intelligence, which we will touch on briefly. But for Bard, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks, months, and as they iterate on this. It will get better. What are the implications? How is it going to influence search? We still don't know because it's not integrated into search. Will they add citations? I don't know. I hope so. I think they should. I think they need to, but it's not necessarily a extreme likelihood. What do you think? Have you tried Bard? What have you found? Let me know in the comments. With Microsoft, there was a really big announcement last week that they have released a Bing image creator. So working with OpenAI and their AI-generated image creator, DALL-E, you can now create AI-generated images on Bing. Really cool, free tool, can be kind of slow. You get these boosts that allow you to speed it up, and then there are other ways to earn boosts, but otherwise kind of slow. The quality is pretty excellent. It's very close to Midjourney, but not all the way there. One of the big focuses with all of these AI tools is safety. Is it good enough? That's questionable, but they do call out the fact that, they try to prevent harmful or offensive images being generated, let alone presenting them to the user. We'll see. I haven't seen any specific cases where there anything that slipped by the safeguards, but, the safeguards, that's probably the reason that Google is rolling out, Bard so slowly, is you have to make sure that this stuff is safe before it just goes mainstream. That said, Microsoft Bing image creator, super cool. It does call out one thing that I noticed. So I held this workshop internally at iPullRank last week for AI image generation, all about how to do it, how to build prompts. But there are problems with the models in that they are trained on millions and billions of images. And so there's a certain amount of bias that comes into your prompts. For instance, if you put a bowler in your prompt or a basketball player, bowling might generate a white bowler. Basketball might generate a black basketball player. CEO might generate a white male. There are these biases based on the images that exist on the internet, whether that's based on society or just, the images that are presented. It's problematic. My proposal, I haven't thought this through completely, but I think that they should have parameters that if there's something that is gendered or race related, that it creates a random addition to the prompt that makes it whatever race it possibly could be. I think that would make these image generators less biased. I think it would help, for representation and visibility, because it's important and it shouldn't just be based on what already exists out there. That's all I'll have to say about Microsoft Image Creator and AI generated images. So, okay, let's be honest. All of the AI generation tools and SEO, it's blending. Whether you're using the tools to improve your SEO performance, or you're just using these tools and thinking about how you can appear in front of them as a new type of organic search, you got to pay attention, right? More and more people are going to be using these. So moving on to OpenAI and ChatGPT, big announcement last week. Another game changer. More stuff has happened in the last few weeks than has happened in the last few months. That's happened in like years and years of technology. So ChatGPT is shipping, and it's shipping quick. And their big announcement was plugin integration. They have a select wait list, and they've allowed some different organizations to build plugins that you can then put into ChatGPT. So we're talking Instacart, OpenAI, Wolfram, Kayak, Expedia. And so what is really interesting and monumental about the integration of plugins is that it can now access the internet, right? So in theory, you could use a plugin to tell ChatGPT to go and check out the internet and collect information about the Oscars, or collect information about your next, vacation that you want. And then using something like Expedia or the Kayak plugin, it will then create the itinerary, create the whole thing, and then create a link where you can go and purchase. They have a demo with Instacart about, I want a chickpea salad. And so here are the ingredients. And then it creates the recipe list with the ingredients that you can click a link and order them all on Instacart, like instantly. Not to do a promo for Instacart, but it becomes that much more important for brands to get into this plugin game and participate in what's going on in ChatGPT. Also, the influence of the internet really does update all of what ChatGPT is ultimately trained on. As it continues to get trained on newer internet information, or at least can access it, these large language models can produce more relevant content. It's super fascinating. There are, according to OpenAI, a lot of safety considerations. They talk the talk that they're really trying to make safety important, because as we know from WordPress plugins, a lot of bad actors can create malicious plugins and inject bad code that can do some nasty stuff to your website or your computer. And so OpenAI and ChatGPT seem to be trying to prevent any of this happening. I think they realize the power for these tools, but there's a lot of potential bad stuff that can also happen. So I'm curious. It's very hard with the speed of innovation to predict what the future looks like. What do you think is going to happen with all this AI generated stuff? Are you scared? Are you excited? Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious. So one more AI side note caveat that is important to call out is that a bunch of Microsoft researchers had access to an early version of GPT-4 from OpenAI. And they were looking into what its limitations were and whether or not it would even be considered AGI. So remember, this is a large language model. It's all about predicting what the next word is based on probabilities, based on being trained on billions and millions of documents. Now, the idea of artificial general intelligence is whether or not it can actually think and understand, like real, legitimate artificial intelligence, not just predicting things. Now, they come to an interesting conclusion. They asked it to do things like draw a unicorn. Now, it's not trained on visuals. It's only trained on text, or solving really complex mathematical problems, or, medical problems. So what they found, and I'm going to read this from their abstract, was: we demonstrate that beyond its mastery of language, GPT-4 can solve novel and difficult tasks that span mathematics, coding, vision, medicine, law, psychology, and more without needing any special prompting. Moreover, in all these tasks, GPT-4's performance is strikingly close to human-level performance and often vastly surpasses prior models such as ChatGPT-4. Given the breadth and depth of GPT-4's capabilities, we believe that it could reasonably be viewed as an early yet still incomplete version of an artificial general intelligence AGI system. So I hate to reference the Marvel universe, but it does actually remind me of Thor when they go to the magical Asgard and Natalie Portman's character is like, oh, this is, isn't magic, blah, blah, blah. And Thor's like, well, to you, magic is just really, really complicated science. Whether or not it's predictive or not, as these tools get so much more complicated, it might be illusion, smokes and mirrors, but it feels like the real thing. And then at one point, are we saying, okay, maybe it's not large language model, it is AGI. And to that point, it is more about actually being able to think or rewrite its code or do things beyond just predictive text. Philosophical conversations. There's a lot of people who are speaking to that on the interwebs, but that's my take. Interesting, 150 pages with all of these specific use cases. Like when you hear about it, like beating the LSATs and beating all these different standardized tests or whatnot. GPT-4 is pretty impressive. So it's overwhelming to keep up with all of the developments of AI. In fact, you see this on Twitter constantly. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to handle all the innovation. Really great kind of interview conversation, hour long with Carlos Meza and Britney Muller. Carlos is from CrowdContent. Britney has Data Sci 101, where they talk all about AI, NLP, ChatGPT, and machine learning. Britney is a data scientist. She worked at Moz and Hugging Face. She has a very deep understanding of this technology, the limitations, how it works, how it doesn't work. And they go deep on everything from, liability to biases to opportunities to problems. And really interesting take from Britney on her perspective on the evolution of SEO and these AI, organic search generated tools and what that might look like for our profession going forward. Let's see what she had to say. Take it away, Britney.
That content feeds these models. So the content and brand mentions and product descriptions and that information will be necessary to be a part of some of these answers and outputs. And I don't think that's going anywhere. I think we will likely see artificial intelligence optimization experts that maybe evolve from SEOs, is my hope, and that we get more comfortable kind of aligning our content efforts with these multimodality libraries.
The whole conversation is fascinating. I think she does a great job of explaining her fears, her hesitations, what we can control, what we can control, and what you need to know, what it is versus what it isn't. I highly recommend you watch that whole video if you're interested in this stuff. Definitely dive in. It gets deep, it gets weird, it gets out there, because the reality is none of us know. In fact, she briefly mentions at a couple points the idea of these AI tools hallucinating. We talked about this a little on the AI for content for SEO with Andy Volpini of WordLift on the iPullRank webinar a few months back. Basically, the idea of emergent behaviors or hallucinations, that as these tools get bigger, they can have these behaviors that are unpredictable. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this continues to play out. And a final bit of AI GPT, because I know you all are sick of it, or you just love it and can't get enough. But last article that I want to highlight, Jess Peck of LocalSEOGuide put out a really great breakdown. We've heard a lot of talk in the community around using Google's quality rater guidelines, and how they're tied to EEAT signals, expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, to train the GPT model on GPT chat on that document, the 100+ pages of the quality rater guidelines, and then have that kind of audit and qualify your content. So in the article, Jess explains how to do it, how you can actually do that, but why it's potentially problematic. It's not a lot of information to be trained on. Remember, ChatGPT is trained on billions of documents, and 100-some pages of the quality rater guidelines is not a lot to use to train it on. So there are going to be a lot of inaccuracies. It's a cool concept, but Jess breaks down, could be wrong still, factually inaccurate. It's not a definitive, trustworthy practice. It's a fun exercise, but you can't say 100% this is going to solve my quality content issues for any sort of content I produce, whether it's AI generated or human generated. Really great article. Oh, and one bonus at the bottom is Jess puts out a bunch of ridiculous cocktails and recipes created by ChatGPT in the form of their local SEO guide. I did the same exercise with iPullRank, came up with iPullDrank. Such a good drink name, right? You should check it out. That's on my Twitter. But great article by Jess. So in the world of kind of the overlap of SEO and AI and ChatGPT, fascinating experiment by Nilay Patel of The Verge, editor-in-chief there, basically put together this joke article for Brothers Printer. Now, remember, we've had like the product reviews update that was rolled out, or iteration like 6 over like last week. We've had the helpful content system. We've had a core update. There's been a lot of reasons for fluctuations in the rankings. Well, The Verge put out this article. Like they do have, you know, product reviews and affiliate marketing, but they don't really do, they're not in like the printers. So they went for Best Printer 2023, put out the article. And so the whole thing is satire. There's joke human writing. There's even a portion where Nilay's like, hey, you know, ChatGPT, write, you know, 275 words for this article. Like, it is garbage, right? Even the title tag is like Best Printer 2023, just buy this brother laser from The Verge. And it ranked number 4. So interesting experiment. Who knows how long it'll stay up there? 2 things that are called out. So Danny Goodwin of Search Engine Land wrote a great article and asked Nilay information about like the story behind the story and details it all. But in terms of EEAT, authoritativeness, The Verge is a very highly authoritative website, you know, really well respected. And so even if the quality of the content isn't great, it's still going to probably rank on The Verge. It wouldn't work if you go on to, you know, GarrettSussman.com, which doesn't really exist. But anyway, the point is authoritative matters and freshness matters. It's a new article, and Google does try to prioritize freshness, which is why people wrongly or rightly always try to update the publishing date of their articles, whether or not any of the content has ever actually changed. And, you know, Google is trying to catch that. They do most of the time. Sometimes they don't. But fascinating experiment. Yeah. So deep, comprehensive article on Oncrawl by Alireza Shiravand, all about best practices for using Vue.js for e-commerce sites. Now, Vue.js is a framework similar to like Angular and React that uses JavaScript to build pages dynamically. So that could potentially be a major issue for SEO. And so this article goes deep in terms of, you know, the rendering, whether to focus on server-side rendering versus dynamic rendering, you know, different packages to deal with structured data and speed. Really cool. Some of it is beyond my experience as a developer, but I feel like if you are working in SEO, you have SEO engineering development background, and you're working with your development team to ensure that SEO is taken into consideration, because your organic search traffic for e-commerce is huge. You cannot mess that up. Definitely check out this article for that. Accessibility is such an important topic, and it's frustrating that you do need to make an ROI case for it for your website. But Alisa Smith wrote a great article on Meza talking all about the value of accessibility, inclusivity, how it helps with discoverability, and ways that you can make that case to your C-suite to implement whatever it takes to make your website accessible. One of the interesting insights that she said is like, if you need to defend against a lawsuit that your website is not accessible, you can take that into consideration with your budget and the ROI and make the case that way. But otherwise, a great article, some interesting points by Alisa. Really appreciated it. Great resource that I want to call out from Crystal Carter in celebration, maybe not just for the sake of it, but in celebration of 7,500 followers on Twitter, she has updated her resource of SEOs and tech created for and made by women and non-binary folks. So originally it had 50, now it has 100, covers everything from organizations, resources, you know, courses, you name it. She covered it. great work by Crystal on that. Definitely utilize that, made for women, to kind of increase the representation in our industry. It's so important. High quality prompts for ChatGPT are all the rage. And Joe Hall actually put together a great little tool to compile a really great prompt for whatever you might need. So basically you input all the information, whether it's for writing or coding or learning, the type of content, main content subtopics, etc. And then this generates out a prompt that you could then put in ChatGPT to get the output that you want. So really helpful free tool from Joe. I am thoroughly impressed by Christoph Kemper's AIPRM tool. It is an extension for ChatGPT to produce a community of prompts, and they just keep iterating features. I mean, there's so much more to it. Last week, they basically allowed for live web crawling. So, kind of the way that whole ChatGPT plugin works, you can now do that through AIPRM, as well as multiple variations, multiple variables for the prompts. Really cool features. They do have a premium option now, so you can pay for the more advanced features, but a lot of it is still free. Super cool, definitely worth installing via Chrome. Super safe and reliable, and I use it frequently. So great work to the team over there. Little feature from Keyword Insights. So Saganthan and Andy Chadwick, they put together this awesome keyword clustering tool. They just added visualization. So in kind of a card form, you can visualize all your keyword clusters and then, kind of annotate them, make notes, group them. Really cool looking tool. There's a demo that he put on Twitter, but super helpful tool. They have a bunch of really cool features, both free and paid, on that tool, like SERP similarities and whatnot. So check that out. And finally, last week on Rankable, I had growth and SEO consultant Devin Pickell. We talked all about the unsexy truths of SEO. Basically, the idea that SEO is hard to get into your organization. It might not even be for everyone. It's a very high level conversation of your approach for SEO, whether you are, a SaaS startup or a product marketer, and where it makes sense to focus or to unsilo yourself and work cross departments, or just buckle down and wait till it makes more sense as your business matures. Check out that whole conversation. Really enjoyed it. And this Thursday, free webinar, myself, Zach Chahalis, at 3 p.m. We are talking all about website migrations and replatforming. The reality is most websites need to be redesigned or replatformed or migrated every 2 to 3 years. And a lot of times SEOs are not invited to the conversation. Well, Zach's been doing it for a minute. He's seen so many different migrations. He's seen, when it's a disaster and SEO is not involved, and he has to clean up after the fact, and the right things to do to put in place so it goes smoothly. Because if organic search traffic is critical to the success of your business, a migration or replatforming can really mess it up. Register. The link to the webinar is in the description notes. So hopefully we'll see you Thursday. Otherwise, that is it. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. I hope, I recorded this on a Friday. It's published Monday morning. I hope this isn't outdated in terms of AI at this point, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a like, leave us a comment. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and I will catch you next week.